Good morning, everyone. This is a wild story. So I was in my basement going through old records, old tax records, documents, things like that that you dispose of after a while. And I came across a notebook because I was keeping track of everything I ate for a while to determine which food allergies I had. And this is about 10 years ago. And I came across a notation that I was eating ricotta pie. I have no recollection of this at all. I don't remember eating ricotta pie, but then I found the recipe. Here it is, ricotta pie. So I thought it would be fun if I made this today. And it appears to be gluten-free, and it makes sense because that's around the time I went gluten-free. So we're going to make a gluten-free ricotta pie. Now, from the other recipes I read, this is supposed to be a dessert, like an actual pie. But I don't see a crust on here. I see some eggs, vanilla, whole milk, ricotta, and lemon zest. Well, I just looked and I don't even have any vanilla, so I'm skipping that. So the recipe calls for 6 large eggs, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 2 15-ounce containers of whole milk ricotta, 2 teaspoons of grated lemon zest. I don't even have any fresh lemons right now. So we have 6 eggs here, 2 ricotta cheese with the whole milk, a mixing bowl, and I do have lemon juice I could add. So it says to preheat oven to 325. I just started that. And then spray a springform pan with a nonstick spray. So I did that. If you aren't familiar with a springform pan, it has a latch on the front that releases when the pie is finished. And it says to separate the eggs, place whites in one bowl and yolks in a mixer bowl. Mix it all until thick and light, about 1 minute. Then add the ricotta and zest, mix until smooth, about 30 seconds. And then it says to beat the whites on high speed until soft peak. Fold whites into the ricotta, pour into pan, bake until cake is deep golden brown, about 1 hour, 20 minutes. Cool in fridge for 6 hours. I asked my daughter about this because I really have no recollection about it. And she said that when I started the gluten-free diet, I ate this all the time and she didn't like it. It was gross. She said because real ricotta pie has sugar and you put it in a pan and it tastes good and a crust and all that, and I don't do any of that. I just make it sort of like keto, I guess. And she said that it was disgusting. She said I used to put sugar-free chocolate on it. I'm like, really? I have no recollection of this. That just cracks me up, but it was 10 years ago, so who knows? I have a second bowl ready for the egg whites, and I'm going to go ahead and separate the eggs. Okay, I just separated my first egg. Now, if you have never done that before, it can be kind of tricky. You want to make sure the shell is cracked in the middle so that you have 2 halves. Put the egg whites in the one bowl and the egg yolk in the next bowl. I'll try to show you with one hand here. I don't have my phone stand right now. So you want to try to get the crack to be in the center of the egg, and you start with the egg white bowl and hold it over there, and then you're just going to juggle the 2 halves of the eggshells, you can see here, so that you can get the whites in this bowl, and then you're going to juggle this over into the other eggshell until all the whites are in this bowl. Now that I have all of my eggs separated with the whites in one bowl and the yolks in the next, now I'm going to mix the ricotta into the egg yolk. Okay, so now I have the ricotta in the bowl, and at this point I'm also going to add a little lemon juice. You could probably really add any flavor you want. I'm on a low oxalate diet, so I have to be careful with what I have, but I can have a little lemon juice. That was super easy to mix the egg yolk and the ricotta. It was like mixing a boxed cake mix. Now I have to beat the egg whites until stiff peak forms. I've done this for lemon meringue, so I imagine it's similar. So that's what egg whites look like when they're beaten to a stiff peak. Now to fold in egg whites, you just want to use your spatula. You don't want to use a mixer. And you just want to gently fold them throughout the ricotta and egg yolk mixture. Once that's mixed, then you go ahead and you pour all of this in the prepared springform pan. That's what it looks like in the pan, and now I'm going to bake for 1 hour and 20 minutes. Now, of course, when you're making yours, you might want to add different things. This is just a recipe I have from when I went gluten-free, so obviously there is no sugar or anything like that because my health was suffering at the time and I was trying to get it on track again. But, you know, I'm sure some cinnamon and maybe some pumpkin pie spice or stuff like that, you know, be creative about it. I'm sure there's other recipes too that call for the real ingredients for this with the pie crust and the whole thing. But this is just an example of what you can do with a recipe when you're gluten-free or you have other food allergies and you can't have all that stuff. Okay, so it just came out of the oven. And with the golden brown color and the way it's fluffy, you know, it's kind of bouncy, it reminds me of a souffle. I still have no recollection of this, of eating it or meal prepping around it. I have no recollection of it, but my diary says differently. So now I'm going to let it cool, and then once I let it cool, I'll taste test it and see what it tastes like. The pie has to cool for 6 hours, so I just put it out here on a table on my porch because it's obviously cold out here, and I don't really have room in my fridge because I stocked up before the snowstorm. I just went ahead and put some coasters down on the glass table outside, and then I put the pie on there, and then I'll check back in with it in 6 hours. Okay, so I let the pie cool. I don't know if I was supposed to leave it in the springform pan though, because you can see how it deflated a little bit, but it's very thick and dense. It's like a cheesecake feeling. It's also heavy, so maybe I should have taken it out of the springform pan before I chilled it, but I thought if I did that it would fall apart because it was kind of wiggly before. So now I'm going to put it on a plate and see what it does. I didn't do a very good job of spraying the pan with nonstick spray. As you can see, it kind of stuck to the sides. You can see how dense and thick this is. I'm holding it up so you can see the side of it. I definitely did not do a good enough job with the nonstick spray, as you can see, but I have to use one that doesn't have gluten in it. So that's a challenge when you're trying to bake. I use like an olive oil spray or something, so it's really not good for baking. So if you do this and you can have gluten, I would suggest the Pam baking spray or a knockoff of the Pam baking spray because it has the flour coating with it, and I've found that that's very good for baking. So here I have it in a pie dish, and you can see I had a little bit of trouble getting it out of the springform pan because it stuck a little, but I wasn't making this for anybody else anyway, so it didn't have to be perfect or pretty. I just wanted to taste it to see what it's all about. By the way, I still have no recollection of making this before, even though I know I did because I wrote it down. Okay, so you see here it's nice and fluffy on the fork. I have to say it's quite good. Now, I haven't eaten sugar in at least 10 years. I eat sugar in food where it's already in food, such as, say, fruit. There's natural sugar in dairy products. Okay, so I'm used to having natural sugar. I do not ever have white sugar in anything I make that I eat. I don't have sugar in my coffee. I don't have pastries, baked goods, or anything like that. I'm pretty much eating like, I would say, a cross between carnivore and keto at this point. So if you like sugar and you like sweet things, you probably will not like this. Because it's, to me, it tastes a little sweet only because of the ricotta. But without sugar in it, it doesn't taste like an actual pie. I would probably eat this more like a side with something. I could see this with fruit on top, where you'd put your, strawberries and blueberries and maybe some fresh whipped cream. But as far as taste, it's pretty bland. I don't really consider it a pie at this point. I would consider it like a side dish, but I don't really know what you would do with it because you can't really eat it like a piece of bread. It doesn't have that consistency, so you wouldn't be able to make a sandwich out of it. But if you are eating gluten-free and wanted something sweet, definitely sweeten this up, and then you'd have a cheesecake texture like pie. So there you have it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching today. Take care.